I, 26 female, am pregnant for the first time with my husband's, 26 male, baby. His daughter, 7 female, from his first marriage, is ruining my life. I'm sure that my husband doesn't even know that Reddit exists, but I'm sure we have friends that go in this subreddit, so I'm using a throwaway account for this one. I feel like the worst person in the world for typing this out to begin with, but I need some reassurance or practical ways that I can handle this situation. For some backstory, my husband and I are very much in love. We met over 5 years ago through work and got married last year. It was my first marriage and his second. We recently bought a house together and everything, and decided that it was a good time to start a family. After months of trying, I am now pregnant with a beautiful, wrinkly fetus. I'm about 5 months along at the moment, and though I feel a bit more emotional/craving crazy than I used to be, I still feel rather healthy and good about myself. My husband was supportive and took very good care of me, until Ava, obviously not her real name, came into our life. Ava is from my husband's first marriage. He was married to a kind woman who, only after 4 years of marriage, grew bored of him and cheated on him with many men. When my husband found out, he went through her cell phone on a gut feeling, he was livid and upset with her. She had been sending and receiving nudes for months back. But despite this, he wanted to work things out with her, but she'd already moved in with another man, taken Ava with her, served him divorce papers, along with a restraining order. She has also sent Ava to therapists, trying to brainwash her into thinking that my husband was a neglectful father. My husband took this sack of shit to court to fight for joint custody, but he ultimately lost. He can only see her a few times a year. Immediately after winning, said sack of shit took Ava and moved to a different city almost 3 hours away with her new man. Since her birth in 2007, my husband has only seen Ava about a dozen times for special occasions or weddings. He technically still has custody of her, but not at all primary, only on paper. So on to the meeting. We met when I was 20 and he was 30. He was still in the middle of divorce papers and was wrecked from having to pay alimony along with child support and not being able to get any closure on his marriage or access to his daughter. We became good friends and we hung out often until about a year into the friendship, we decided to move in together. I needed a roommate and he needed a roommate because he could no longer support himself living alone. We fell for each other gradually until we were in love, and after his finances were straightened out, he proposed to me, and we were married last year, as I'd said before. But now, long story short, Ava's rent-a-womb broke it off with yet another man. Word of mouth is, she met another man online who lives an entire state away and wanted to go live with him. She left Ava with her parents, Ava's maternal grandparents, who live in our city, but the maternal grandparents are old. They are old, weak, and though they like having their granddaughter around, they can't raise her. They can't help her with homework or help her get ready for school. They don't drive. So one day, Ava literally just showed up on our doorstep and we've had to readjust our whole lives for her. I have never had so much hatred for a 7-year-old in my life. I feel like shit. Ava is the rudest little girl that I have ever seen. She has no manners and no consideration for anyone. She talks back to her father and gives him attitude. She only smiles and acts loving when she wants something, like new toys or clothes that she wants. When she found out that she was to get a younger sibling, I let her rub my belly. But instead, she smacked me. She's smacked my belly at random times when I walk past her, and it makes me livid and drives me to tears. I tell her that it's unacceptable to hit anyone, especially her sibling, but she screams that I'm not her mum and I can't tell her what to do. Who's heard of that one before? I told my husband about her behavior and how she acts when he's not around, deliberately makes messes that I have to clean, draws on my paintings and books with markers, won't eat my home-cooked food but demands pizza and ice cream, and instead of scolding and disciplining her, he placates her and gets her what she wants. His idea of scolding is, "Don't do that again, okay?" It's like he's gone from being a dependable family man to a flaccid doormat of a father. I want to send her back to her sack of shit mother. Maybe she'd be better off in foster care, but at this point, I don't care anymore. Is there any way that I can deal with this in a practical way? I can't even keep my head straight. I don't like feeling toxic when I'm about to be a mother, as I've tried so hard to be a mother figure to this girl, the best that I can be, but this girl is beastly to me. I'm always walking by her with my hands around my belly in case she strikes me again. If this is how she's gonna be, I don't want her to affect my unborn baby. She's already having a profoundly negative effect on my husband. I hate her stupid white trash mother for ripping her away from my husband, denying him access, and then dumping her on her parents, and then onto us once she wanted a new out-of-state cock to ride. I know this girl is the consequence of her environment. It has to be, but I don't know what we can do at this point. I've never worked with behavioral children, and I've never dreamed that I'd be a wicked stepmother figure in the midst of being barefoot and pregnant. My question is, how the hell can I sort this family out without going absolutely mental? I feel like a prisoner in my own home and didn't sign up for this sort of dysfunctional nonsense. This is affecting my sanity, my marriage, and my family. Any input or solutions are welcome. Please help. In the comments, when I feel like it says, that little girl desperately needs therapy. I know she's awful, but she's been raised poorly and she's been abandoned. She's pissed off. You guys can be the stable, loving home that she needs to grow up normal. Listen, I'm a stepmom. Bio mom's a total sack of shit, but the kids were like wild animals when I came on the scene 2 years ago. Tantruming, destroying stuff, not listening, serious emotional disturbance, but with therapy, love, diligence, and total dedication, their dad, who has had sole custody for 2 years until recently, and I, turned those 2 kids into functional human beings. It's made me cry and want to give up at times, but I reminded myself that they needed me. They have a great dad, but he had no idea how to parent at first. He was just escaping from a physically and emotionally abusive woman and trying to keep them safe. He would have anxiety attacks when they threw tantrums. He would let them eat whatever they wanted and do whatever they wanted. I came in, made rules and bedtimes, taught him that it's okay to be strict, that you must choose your battles, but win every single one that you choose. They went from eating pizza and mac and cheese every night to eating whatever healthy meal that we put in front of them. They went from tantrums and freakouts to deep breathing and apologizing. It takes time, dedication, and a lot of patience, but you have got to get him on the same page. You've both got to be willing to wait her out until she breaks and realizes that you're the boss, and you've got to be firm and loving at all times. She needs to feel safe with you. She's a 7-year-old little girl. That's my stepson's age, and he still very much needs me to hold him when he's feeling insecure and anxious, make him feel safe, and he needs to know that Daddy and I are 2 people he can trust, no matter what, to never, ever let him down. That little girl needs to know that you and your husband will never let her down, and her behavior will improve when she does. She's scared and angry and abandoned, and nobody has ever taught her how to be a person. You can do that. Where we left off says, awesome advice. One added thing, sort out the custody with the courts. You don't want to spend months dealing with her problems plus a newborn if she's just going to be taken away again. Make sure Dad is on the same page. Very good point. Never leave that stuff unspoken or unofficial. And I'm serious. If X has custody, husband could actually end up responsible for child support during the time that she's with you. Go to the court about this immediately. Went through this very situation. After my friend had his child dumped on the doorstep, he didn't worry about court. 8 months later, she wanted the kid back. He actually faced kidnapping charges for a period of time. Make everything completely legal and airtight. Yeah, this is a situation that needs to be handled with a lot of patience and a lot of grace. If all she's ever known is that chaotic household that she grew up in, that's something that's going to take some time to fix. And that first comment by when I feel like it pretty much encapsulates how you should approach the situation, in my opinion. Obviously, get all your ducks in a row with the courts to begin with. That's an incredible idea. But yeah, this little 7-year-old girl is alone. She has been abandoned by those that, she should be able to trust the most. You, OP, have a chance to fix this, but you have to be incredibly careful. And now, on to Update 1. Since I've started walking around with my hands casually on my belly when around Ava, she hasn't been hitting me as much as she used to. This morning over breakfast, in front of both my husband and I, Ava told me that I hope your baby dies. My husband had been asking what she thinks that we should name the baby, and we came up with ways to try and include her in the pregnancy, and she said nothing. After my husband and I both took turns asking her, come on, you can think of a boy name and a girl name, she told me, I hope your baby dies. I didn't say anything, and I let my husband discipline her, but as always, his idea of discipline is to say simply, you're a big girl, you shouldn't say those things. I asked him into the next room and asked that he be more firm with her, as she had been physically punching me in the belly, and now it's looking like she'll be saying that she hopes the baby dies. Thanks for all of your responses. I've read through each of them, and though I couldn't reply to your comments, I really appreciated the input. One poster actually mentioned that I might be jealous of Ava's existence because it's a reminder that I'm going through a first marriage and my first pregnancy with someone who's done it all before. And you know what? I'll admit that does bother me a bit. Having Ava be so behavioral and difficult as she isn't really helping my feelings either. Though I will say, not as many commenters in my OP said as much about what to do about Ava hitting me on my 5-month pregnant belly. But I can say that I've never talked badly about Biomum in front of her. If I seem hostile towards her, it's probably because she acts so beastly to me no matter what I do for her. Cook for her, pack her lunches, pick her up from camp, and even resorts to hitting me. That I cannot look past. Sorry if that makes me immature and selfish, but I don't want to surround myself with that kind of negativity, even if it comes from a 7-year-old. I'm going to ask my husband, he's speaking to Ava right now, that I'll be going to live with my parents for a while, or if not, my sister. I want to finish the rest of my pregnancy in peace and without stress. The best thing for me right now is to protect the baby in my own belly. Ava is also behavioral towards her father, so I'll say that this time can be used for Ava and husband to bond. It would temporarily move me out of sight and maybe allow husband some one-on-one time with Ava. Maybe by the time that I'm back in the family home with our new addition, she'll cool off a bit and we can start therapy, as many of you have suggested. Thank you for your input, Reddit. I appreciate every thought. In the comments, Ruladen says, Ava having all of this anger against the baby actually makes perfect sense. Her mum dropped her like a hot rock. Her mum, who was her sole caregiver and the one person in her life who was supposed to be there for her no matter what. Then she got kicked over to her grandparents and then dropped with you guys. Her dad, who's practically a stranger, and a stepmom who's having a hard time dealing with her. And you guys are excited for your new baby. In Ava's 7-year-old mind, she's afraid that once the baby comes, you guys are going to decide that you don't want Ava anymore either. She's already been abandoned for less. She might hope that if you don't have a baby, then maybe, just maybe, you will love her and keep her. She hates the baby because she thinks that it's a threat to her, because she's a frickin' 7-year-old girl who's already been drop-kicked by her own mother. This girl has been chewed up and spit out, and she knows that you're more excited about the baby you've planned for than the hurt kid who just landed in your lap. Whatever you do, do not wait to start therapy. You think it's tough now? I guarantee you it's not going to be any easier once you have a newborn who needs 24/7 care and you are permanently sleep deprived. Go to therapy now. Get an appointment for this week, if you can manage it. However tough it is to start this process now, it's going to be 100 times harder once the baby arrives, I promise. There's a lot of people in this thread saying that OP shouldn't move out and saying that it's like a terrible idea because Ava will have won in this situation. I personally don't agree with it. You know, what if it was anyone else hitting OP, who was 5 months pregnant, in her stomach? He wouldn't be okay with that. Ava is physically assaulting a pregnant woman. That's not just a behavioral issue, that is dangerous. And yeah, if it was anyone else but Ava hitting OP in the stomach, would he just go up to them and say, tisk tisk, you shouldn't do that? And that's it? Like, that's not the appropriate response to this situation, I'm sorry. Why is he so non-confrontational and being such a doormat? He is terrible at dealing with this situation. Family therapy, yesterday. Enforce serious consequences consistently. Like timeouts, loss of the privileges, any toys taken away needs to happen. And if all these boundaries that OP sets up with Ava don't work and she hits her again, I don't blame OP for leaving the house and getting her peace. OP is overwhelmed, she's unsupported, and she's in a crisis. It makes sense why she feels the way she does, and it doesn't seem that OP's husband is doing anything to help her out. Let's not mention the 10-year age gap. I think OP moving out is probably the kick in the head that her husband needs to get his shit under control. I think that's a perfectly reasonable ultimatum to set. And now, onto the final update, 6 days later. Since my last update, we've put Ava into therapy and began attending marital counseling. Ava is going to therapy twice a week, and my husband and I are attending once a week. I'm glad that we managed to get everything out during our very first session, as we have the remainder of the sessions to work towards resolving the marriage as well. A lot of my anger has gone away since I moved out. I'm writing this from my parents' home, and I feel safe and relaxed. I've been taking some maternity yoga classes for my own peace, and I think I quite like it. Husband and I talk or text almost every day over the phone, and we plan to meet up or have me come by once or twice a week to our family home to do family activities, as the therapist suggested. I know many of you suggested that I stay in the family home, but the peace that I feel now with Peanut, we nicknamed the little one, I wouldn't trade this experience away. I finally feel like I can indulge and experience my pregnancy to its fullest. Ava and I did have one last violent fallout before I moved out. I put my hands on Ava when she came in for another swing. This was right after the talk that my husband had with her about her absolutely not hitting me, so I quickly grabbed her wrist. No hitting, no spanking, just grabbed her wrists to restrain her. I told her that I would not tolerate being hit, reminded her of the no-hitting rule, and asked her to please stop. She retaliated by swinging her leg up to kick me in the stomach. Think Gerard Butler's "This is Sparta" kick scene. My God! The willpower it took me not to slap her across the face was burning, but I managed to walk away in tears, but still managed to tell her what big trouble she was going to be in for hitting me again, and came straight back with her dad in tow, who gave her a big stern lecture about it. This happened a day after the first child therapy session, so my husband and I were pretty relieved that we had got the ball rolling on that therapy, and he supports me 100% in my decision to move out until the end of my pregnancy. His issues are that he has no idea what to do with Ava, and is afraid that she will hate him if he is too hard on her. Remember that he was basically cut out of her life for almost her entire childhood until her bio mum abandoned her. It was here that I told him that I was unhappy that he appeared to be bending over backwards for Ava while neglecting Peanut. I raised the issue of hard discipline and drawing rules, and the counselor will help us out in drawing up fair house rules. Some of them include no hitting and no name-calling, eat whatever is put on your plate, dessert will only be after your meal is finished, and help out with household chores, small things, in exchange for a small allowance. My husband and I both agreed that we would treat Ava fairly and discipline the same way, and that the same rules for Ava would also apply to our own child. I know we won't be applying similar rules to the baby in its toddlerhood, but we feel that it's a good guide, and it can show Ava the nature of house rules and that life requires some order and discipline, things that she probably is not used to having around. But we're starting that now. We haven't heard from Rent-A-Womb for weeks now, not even a single phone call to see how Ava is doing with the transition. We both agreed that she is no longer welcome to intrude in our life. We will get some sort of ball rolling to claim for full custody now that she has proven herself to be an utterly incompetent human being. So here I am, resting with my peanuts and surrounded by my parents and sister, and we are full of positive vibes. My husband and I are in marriage counseling, and Ava is in therapy. We plan to take some parenting courses at a local community center, and we will be bringing Ava with us. Maybe being around other girls and boys expecting siblings will be there, and maybe some of their enthusiasm and attitudes will rub off on her. We'll be encouraging her to make some friends. Perhaps some playdates are in order. Edit. I've read all the PMs and the responses, and I'll do my best to read and respond to every one of them. A few things seem to be popping up over and over again, so I'm going to do my best to unify my stance. 1. I originally came to this board, see the original post, to seek help, and how I should deal with the Ava situation. Many commenters suggested therapy and that I should work together with my husband. It gave me a chance to reflect on how I was thinking, and I was able to process my state and emotions. This update is for those who asked for an update, and for all of those who wanted to see how our family dealt with it in conclusion. I got the help and advice that I needed, and chose to take the one that resonated most with me. 2. I'm moving out until the end of my pregnancy, with my husband's support and blessing. Make me feel bad or selfish all you want. As I said in my last post, I'm not sorry for the decision that I made. I don't care about whether I'm letting Ava win. We've set ground rules and therapy for her, and now it's time to take care of me. You don't win anything against a 7-year-old child. When you have a 7-year-old violently punching and kicking your pregnant belly, then come and talk to me. I don't care if women in some countries have to lower and squat in a minefield to give birth to premature triplets. That's not the hand that I was dealt, and I wish to have a stress-free pregnancy. 3. I know I've had feelings of, I want to slap the shit out of Ava, but I will not be putting my hands on her. Yes, I was beaten as a child. Punitively, and only within reason, but I will never be beating or hitting her. 4. Rent a womb seems pretty apt for a woman who gave birth to, and then proceeded to drag said child on a wagon tour around to screw multiple men while keeping her away from her bio dad and abandoning her once it got inconvenient. I've used rent a womb since I've heard about and met this woman. She deserves no title of parent or mother. It's a nickname that I call my husband's ex. Why can we call uninvolved dads sperm donors, but not its female counterpart? Seems apt. And 5, a lot of you have PM'd me thanking me for my decision to move out. You also grew up in a blended family where you were abused by your step-siblings, and your bio parent was too afraid to discipline you and overlooked the abuse in lieu of hopes that it was just a rivalry phase that would go away. I knew that there were other people who have gone through similar situations, and thank you for coming out of the woodworks. I appreciated those encouragements. Remember that blended families have very different dynamics than traditional families, and that there is no real set-in-stone guideline. Best of luck to everyone in similar shoes. And for additional information, OP says, when I married my husband, his ex had 100% custody and was 3 hours away. She dumped Ava onto her grandparents when she wanted to live with a new man a state away, and we were given a few days' warning from when she was at her grandparents to our home. So believe me when I say that while I knew that he had an estranged child, I knew about it, but I didn't know that we would be dealing with raising her. We are doing the best we can. In the comments, Catherine the Shrew says, this is a tough read. I feel like we're missing so much information. Family courts don't just not grant visitation or custody to one parent so easily. Even if the parent is a piece of shit, they usually give them some form of visitation. So, not really sure about the Ava's father and what he did to be legally completely moved from his kid's life and his ex's life. Also like, huh? The mum just dropping Ava off at her grandparents when she gets tired of taking care of her? Seems like Ava has a lot of severely, deeply rooted issues. She was probably told that her dad didn't want her, so she felt abandoned there. Then her mother, who is supposed to be the one who loves and cares for her above all else, abandons her at her grandparents' house. And then they leave her with her father and his new wife, who she doesn't know at all. I'm not excusing her behavior, but that's a lot for a 7-year-old to go through. Also, add in the restraining order that OP casually mentioned. There are so many details that have been left out here. Pugosaurus Tex replies, "Hell, my younger sister had a restraining order on her ex, and police saw him slam her head against their baby's crib while their baby was crying inside that crib. He was still granted unsupervised visitation, and she had to drive halfway to meet his mother, who then brought the child to visit him. I'm sorry to hear that about your sister. That's really awful. But unfortunately, I'm not surprised that visitation was allowed. There are very limited circumstances where a court restricts visitation, even when there is evidence of abuse. Supervised visitation is usually only ordered where there had been abuse against the child, even though there's an argument that witnessing a parent being abused is abuse against the child. There were so many holes in the husband's extremely one-sided story of divorce, plus losing custody, that I was surprised OP bought it. But I guess that's why he went after a 20-year-old while he was 30. Seriously, I'm reading about how awful he was to OP in this situation, and she's still flinging vitriol at the ex. I mean, I suppose he was the perfect husband for his first wife, and the devastation from her betrayals turned him into what he is now, but I really don't think that's the case. Yeah, it seems suspect, doesn't it? OP shows such a negative and insulting attitude towards a woman that she seems to have never met, and her husband somehow got a restraining order against him and lost joint custody, and only has seen Ava on special occasions for about 2 times a year since then, not to mention going for a barely adult woman back then. Not saying that the ex is quite alright and 100% doing right by Ava, but there is definitely more missing from the story. OP claims the ex brainwashed Ava, but it seems that her husband might have done similar to her. Guys, what do you mean our 10-year age gap is a problem? What do you mean? What? Ugh, it's actually the ex that's the problem here, not him. He's perfect. Yeah, I didn't really cop onto it, as you can tell. But people don't just see their kid only 12 times in 7 years for no reason at all. That's not how family law works anywhere. It is what it is. I wish nothing but the best for Ava. I think she is the biggest victim in this entire situation. I hope she's doing okay now, but with parents like that, who needs enemies, right? Thank you for the story, OP. I don't feel any better than I did when I started this. Oh my god. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.